Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Encore. My name is Ernesto Alaniz, pastor of Flint City Church. I'm sitting across the table from...
Pastor Wes.
You're never going to just be able to do this, are you?
No, I'm never prepared. I was just waiting for you to do it for me. I thought you were going to say it. I thought, I got to talk right now.
Welcome to the Encore, our first post-India episode.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And we usually begin this time with you being ridiculous. So
Yes.
what do you got?
Well, I wasn't prepared for anything. Welcome back. I haven't seen you in the flesh this side of the Atlantic until this moment. Right now.
I saw a picture of you on the fastest roller coaster in the world.
The whole world, yeah.
In Dubai.
Yeah, no, Abu Dhabi.
Oh, I apologize.
We had a 20-hour layover. 20 hours. All you want to do is get
come home.
Is get home, and you can't get home from there.
I was stuck 8 hours in Chicago, and I hated my life.
Listen, it's as you know, it's a multi-day. Like when my wife, family from Minnesota. When we leave Minnesota, it's like I'm gonna be home tonight. It's gonna be a long, awful day on the road, but we're gonna be home in my bed tonight. You can't think like that. Like I left India, well, really Pakistan, I guess. And I'm like, okay, I'm going home. But you can't, you got to turn that off, and you're not going home. You're going on a multi-day trip. So anyway, we stopped for 20 hours in Abu Dhabi.
You have a hotel?
Yeah, we had a hotel for a period of time, so we were able to sleep, which was nice. But in Abu Dhabi, right there where we were, is the fastest roller coaster on the planet.
What's this place called? Ferrari Land?
Ferrari World or something. It's right there. Abu Dhabi's crazy, dude. That whole UAE is like outers. It's like the Jetsons over there.
Listen, I saw a picture of Ferrari World, and I didn't believe it was real. It looked like Tony Stark's headquarters.
Listen, that's what it's like. Tony Stark. Braden, you got that picture? Is that in your office right now? You should see my face.
I saw the picture.
You saw the picture of my face?
Of you and Braden.
Okay.
G-Force just
tasted. So me and Braden, so we got this 20-hour thing. We're like, let's go over and ride that roller coaster right now. What else are we going to do? And it's such a nice thing coming off such an intense, wild run through India and Pakistan. It's such a senses shock to now we're on a roller coaster. Look at this thing. Look at our faces. It's like one of those things. You pull 5 Gs on that thing. They put goggles on you.
You look at you're like preparing yourself.
No, I can't breathe. You have to hold your breath. Is this camera?
No, I mean,
you have to hold your breath and hang out, and your face, it's like getting launched out of a rocket, dude. It was so crazy. So we did that, and then we continued our journey on multiple airplanes and got back.
Jeez, man.
But yeah, it was great.
Welcome back to, and you had would you arrive, Thursday or Friday? You arrived back in America.
Listen, I arrived on Thursday, and I played
Sunday.
Dodgeball on Friday.
You're out of control.
And then preached on Sunday. Yeah, it was so crazy, man. But, I mean, you did the same thing. You were grinding through and came back and preached.
Well, I thought I was going to come home on a Monday and then have the whole week to prepare. But I was in Chicago 8 hours, saw stinking Steve Carell in the United Lounge. And then got home, and I was so happy. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just started vomiting. I guess norovirus is going across the country.
So this was the virus. It wasn't anything to do with
No, it
India.
wasn't. It was. I think it got in Chicago. I was there for a while, and it's going coast to coast. Norovirus, dude. There was a ship down in Florida.
A cruise ship.
And norovirus is so. What's it called when it jumps so fast? Contagious, dude. Like a third of the boat was vomiting and diarrhea.
That is the sickest thing I could ever imagine. I would want to jump off the boat and just leave it to the sharks.
I was at a camp once where norovirus went to the entire boys' dorm. The last night
I feel off right now.
The last night of camp. So I'm preaching. And this is my last camp before I go to India as a missionary, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it roiling inside of me. Something's wrong with me. It's just pain. So I'm like, I got to finish this message. It's the gospel proclamation of the whole week. I preach the gospel. We're gonna do a campfire, because campfires are powerful. We had a boys' campfire, girls' campfire planned. I'll say amen. I walk out of the back of the chapel up there.
I feel sick.
I walk out the back, and I just just throw up all over the ground, dude.
I feel like my face is hot right now.
But so that night, no lie, and you know the big bathroom, the big cabin, it is like, what's there, 7 toilets? Literally, there's 13 to 20 boys just sitting on the floor. And we would just all get up, crawl over, throw up, and sit back down.
You are kidding me.
That night, though, we were up me and these 20 guys, and we're just laughing. And then we're like, hold on. And listen, I thought I'm getting calls from parents because I have 20 boys who spent the entire night throwing up.
Oh, my word.
And dude, it became a legend. All the boys who were there talk about it with great, because it was our last hurrah.
Sure.
It was us all night, laughing, vomiting, feeling awful together. It was a beautiful moment in my life. So norovirus, thank you for that beautiful moment in my life.
I feel queasy right now. I literally don't know if I'm going to have lunch today.
I didn't, after I got better, like I threw up for 24 hours. Look, listen, I throw up. So I go in the bathroom to throw up. And Angie said that the kids just stopped. They were like, dude, they're like, Mom, what is that? Because they've never heard me throw up. I haven't thrown up in 14 years.
So all your kids are younger than me.
Yeah. So they stopped. They're like, what's happening? And Nestle's like, Mom, what is that? That's your father vomiting. they covered their ears, ran out. Like they put headphones on because I'm a loud.
You're violent.
Dude, listen, I hold it down. The only way it's getting out if it defeats me. If it defeats me, I'm going down swinging, dude. Dude. It's a very violent action. It's a just grab and whoa, just. The kids were horrified.
This is the sickest story I have ever heard.
Dude, listen. So I'm fevered up. I'm throwing up. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
This is after India.
After India. So I thought I'd get home and get everything ready, and I'm just dude. And Monday night, because of India, we ran so hard I didn't do homework, so I had a big paper to write Monday night, and I'm a fevered vomit mess. So Angie I'm like, Angie, just write down what I say. She types out this paper, and it is a fever. Like the paper, no lie, it relies heavily on I make an argument from Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne this is a master's level paper.
You were like hallucinating.
Dude, I was out of my mind, but got 5 out of 5, baby. Woo!
Must have been a comic book fan, the professor. Like, this guy, finally somebody sees it. Thank you.
I can't believe I got a good grade on it. So I went to the pulpit pretty weak on, like, I didn't, after I got better, I still was afraid to eat because I don't want to throw up again.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like eating. Angie gave me they call it the brat diet when you're nauseous.
Okay.
It's bananas, rice, applesauce, toast.
Okay.
It all is meant to kind of just bind,
Yeah.
So I ate that and I would eat a little bit, like one piece of toast for like the morning.
Gross, dude.
So that was my getting home from India.
Let's go. I'm sick. Now I'm sick.
Today we're talking about, should we cancel fallen pastors?
What do you mean by cancel?
Okay, what do we do with the books, the sermons?
Got a lot of books here, by the way. Got a lot of names here.
There's real names in this table
that are uncomfortable for people.
What do we do with the work, the ministry, the sermons, the legacy in our own lives?
Yeah, because they made an imprint of some kind sometimes.
Of fallen pastors. Should we cancel them? If a pastor falls, is everything they've done gone? And this question, I think, is very relevant to us. So a couple things. Let's start with this first. We'll start with this. We'll start here.
Yeah, all right. This is very interesting.
Pastors can be disqualified from ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed?
Excuse me while I take a drink of coffee to wash down that disgusting story. Yes, I agree.
Okay.
They can definitely be disqualified according to the Bible. 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy. Go
1 Corinthians chapter 9. This is Paul talking. He says this. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Now, everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. Therefore, I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. Yeah. The Greek there is an odd word, dude. The King James says, I will not be put on the shelf. Pastors can be disqualified.
Yeah.
I have seen pastors blow their lives up, and I've seen members of churches say, but why they're removed from leadership? God's used them so mightily.
Yeah.
How this is one mistake. Doesn't God forgive sinners? But listen, we've heard it.
Yeah. And he does forgive them.
He does, but being forgiven for sin does not mean being restored to leadership.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, the Bible says, and we're not going to go into this too hard, but the Bible says very clearly, do not desire to be the leader.
Right.
Because you will be judged more harshly.
Yeah.
If you or I decide to shipwreck our lives, the Bible says if someone in the church falls into sin, we deal with them privately to restore them to the faith. If you or I decide to shipwreck our lives, it says we are to be rebuked publicly before all, so the young men learn to fear.
Yeah.
Like our sin, because our lives are public, our fall is public.
That's true.
Listen, if you've ever had a pastor you love removed from leadership because of their sin, that's not because the board is mean. That's because that leader dishonored the Lord, dishonored themselves, dishonored their family, and is disqualified from leadership.
Yeah, failed their calling. Yep.
They failed their calling.
Yes.
They're put on a shelf.
Yeah, I know many people like this. Okay. Some are very public, and I don't know them personally. Some I do.
Yes. So that's the first thing I want to say is that is a real category of and so now some people say, well, can they ever be restored? That's not the question we're asking today.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair.
Okay. Now, we also happen to live in the 20th century, which is and this has been true before the internet. The internet has made it. This is the age of the celebrity pastor. Now, there's always been celebrity pastors. Like Spurgeon was through the stinking newspaper.
Yeah.
You know, there were some guys who did radio. Then TV became a thing. Through the internet, though, there are a lot of mini kingdoms out there.
Yeah.
There are famous pastors. And when famous pastors fall, it's on the news. It makes headlines. We have here books of pastors who have fallen in all kinds of different ways. This is not a new problem either.
No.
There are theologians from the past who, what do we do with them? Like, for example, guys like Martin Luther, the author of the Reformation, the 95 Thesis, a horrible anti-Semite.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible
anti-Semite. I'd kind of like more people to know that. Like, the way that guy's held up is really something. But
Jonathan Edwards, the premier theologian of America.
He hasn't done anything wrong, so I hope you don't talk about him.
He advocated for owning slaves.
Oh, Edwards.
Dude. And
I like Edwards.
Some would say,
no, I know.
Some would say, well, he was a product of his time. But his contemporary, John Wesley, was like, you're wrong, and it's not of the Lord. So there were white Christian leaders who were saying, Jesus ain't in any of this. And Edwards would even say, it's wrong, but what you going to do?
Oh, Edwards.
So that's not that. So what do we do with that guy?
Yeah.
Do we cancel him? Or we have Karl Barth, who you probably don't know.
I know who he is.
I don't know what you read, dude.
Me.
I don't know if you read the Epistle to Romans, dude. I don't know if you read Dogmatics. I don't know.
Go on.
But Barth, he had an adulterous affair, and he just had it his whole life. He had a house for her.
Man.
He just would go to her. It just was this thing he had in his life, and he'd write about marriage, and he just kind of like go around that. He's like, what are you gonna do? I mean, the heart wants what the heart wants. To quote Woody Allen. So what do you? So that's not. It's. I understand. To quote that's his line, dude.
Of course it is.
And people quote it all the time.
Of course it is.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
Yeah.
I'm saying, so this is not a new problem. These are big theologians, and they have real problems. Do we cancel them? Do we say no harm, no foul? You know, and say, man, they did so much for the kingdom.
No, we don't say that.
So what do we do when in our time? I have right here. Okay, I have Mark Driscoll, one of the fastest growing churches in American history. Okay. Mark Driscoll had an influence way beyond his church in Seattle. And Mars Hill was dead in a day.
One day. It's the craziest thing I've seen in my lifetime.
Doesn't exist anymore.
I cannot believe what happened there, but yep.
Bill Hybels, pastor of Willow Creek Church in outside of Chicago.
Yep.
A gigantic church with a gigantic reach. I mean, if you ever go to a church and there's a clear pulpit, that's because of Bill Hybels.
Yep.
Seeker sensitive movement came from Willow Creek.
Completely.
And that's a massive influential movement in America. And Bill Hybels, right the year he's going to retire, comes out in appropriate relationship with women.
Yeah.
We have Ravis Garias up front.
This is a really bad one.
The premier apologist of our generation.
He had a big influence on you, yeah?
I think all these guys did.
Okay.
Ravi dies, and we celebrated him as a faithful minister.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out that he's accused, and I think I would say that there's been enough evidence that's come forward that makes it pretty damning.
It's very credible.
It's very credible that he had many masseuses that he paid, the ministry paid for.
Yeah, it wasn't even like, I don't want to air out everything
No, I'm
about
saying
Robbie. It was really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And it seems like this person who preached one thing had a secret life that was something else.
Okay, that's the right way to say it. It was really strange.
We have here Rob Bell, right here from Michigan, a minister from another Mars Hill.
Mars Hill.
Grand Rapids.
Driscoll's the other Mars Hill. They're not connected.
And Rob Bell famously, in his book Love Wins, kind of takes a step away from the exclusivity of Christ, and then after that goes away from the scriptures, and steps go down, and now he's kind of a pop celebrity, new age
defends
guy.
all kinds of sin. No, he's
I
out.
have at the end of this table. Some of you might say, "Why is this guy Brennan Manning, a famous, ex-Catholic priest who ministered to many addicts, who in the end of his life fell back into his addiction and never got out of it.
Okay.
He died in it." So what do we do with the work of people?
Many others who were not mentioned?
And I just got books off
there
my
are
shelf.
many others, and some in process right now.
Yeah, there's people right now. I'm watching. Like, are you going to blow your life up?
And the
Are you
answer
gonna-
is yes.
Are you going to end this long career? Like,
Yes.
and it's scary. There's people that I love.
There's some big ones right now that they're going down, and it's
Like,
really
and
bad.
there's many questions. Can I when they cancel? Can we still learn from their work? Do we recommend their work? Do we just say don't read them at all? Like, these are questions. It's all over the map. So, what are some of your first thoughts on what do we do with ministers who fall from grace? What do we do from their Let's first. What if one of these people ministered to us? What do we do with that? Like, one of these guys was a blessing to us in our spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And they blew their lives up.
I mean, I have that in my life. It's not on this table, but
I understand.
I learn from both. In my case, I learn from the positive season in my life, the positive influence, the discipleship moments, and then I learn why a diversion of path happened, and I study that to some degree. How did this happen? How did this person start to veer? Where was there a ground zero? Why did that happen? What could have prevented that? So I learned from the whole picture for me personally, if they have had a personal influence on my life. That's what we're talking about right now.
Yes.
I'm not talking about somebody out there. Do I go get, Hybels did not. I know his story. It was a once inspiring and interesting story to me as a pastor and someone who wants to reach people. I didn't know him. He didn't have a personal influence. Do I go get Hybels now? That's a different question.
Different question. This,
The one who
already influenced you.
I still learn great wisdom from the whole picture, but I do not whitewash history. I will not look away. I will not be an apologist or a defender of a person that I do love. Just because I love them and say you can't say that or the good outweighs the bad. I'm not going to say that. Yes, this is the picture. Didn't this person do this? Don't they do this? Didn't they say that? Yeah, they did. Yep.
I appreciate that answer. Trevor and Wax wrote an article for the Gospel Coalition about theologians and their legacies. Barth, Edwards, these guys. Mm-hmm. And he says we tend to have two kind of camps in America. We either whitewash or we demonize.
Okay.
He says those two things are both. You're doing nothing or going too far.
Yeah. And
I really appreciate that. I know people call it middle ground, but I appreciate that wisdom. I think that with people that affected our lives personally, I think we don't have to say, I don't have to say that everything you told me is now gone.
Right.
In a season of life, your ministry and your words were a blessing to me, and God used you in my life. Mm-hmm. And for that season, I am grateful.
Yeah.
I don't got to burn it all down because he's an idiot 10 years later.
Well,
or because she's an idiot 10 years later.
No, I don't think you do, because if we do, one of my favorite people in the Bible is David, King David. So I look at David, and his response to Saul in the beginning convicts my heart. His altered behavior in my life for godliness, in the direction of godliness. I'm like, wow, the way he responds to leadership above him that hates him and throws spears and all of these things, when the temptation to take power before it's time, all of the way he handled that. This guy sent, this is the same guy that looked at another man's wife, sent the death warrant by his own hand, and had him killed because he impregnated his wife and tried to cover it up. I'm not throwing David out, but I learned, how did that happen? I can see, if I look in the Bible, I'm like, all right, well, what happened here? What evolved in David's heart to what allowed this door to be open? Same thing. I'm not throwing David out. I'm not throwing Samson out. I'm not doing that. How's it different?
Listen, there is I just read an article at Wheaton College. It was, forgive the title, it sounds a little, sounds a little like that. It was Reading the Bible to Hispanic Eyes was the name of the article. And I'm like, oh, this would be fun. Because it wasn't for me, it was just, the whole class read it, you know?
Yeah.
I happened to just be Hispanic. And he said in the article, the author, that he says Americans tend to not like nuance in their legends. So like George Washington, we talk about him, the cherry tree, you know, great leader, and we tend not to want to put negative things in our like
they have to be a
fathers.
whole comic book hero.
Yes,
like
and he talked about like in the Hispanic culture, like our parents we know they're awful. We know our dad's a drunk, and we still love him. Like we live with this tension of, man, my dad sucks, but he's my dad. Like and so with the Bible, we need to do the same thing, that we shouldn't whitewash his heroes. We should understand these people who God used are sometimes awful people, but God still used them, and so you have to live with this weird tension. So I really do appreciate that, and I think that I look at the same way that people in my life who have fallen, I am grateful for what they brought to me, but I will not say what they did wasn't wrong.
No, right.
I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen.
Of course.
So next. You own some of these books, and a pastor blows your life up. Do you leave them on yourself? And you leave them on your shelf?
I have. The ones that I have are mostly the ones that we just said were personal context to me, where I learned from their life, or they had an imprint on me directly in a certain way. I have.
Have you ever removed books from your shelf?
I have. I don't have any Rob Bell books. And I see Velvet Elvis there. I read that was his first big coming out, and there were things of great value in that book. He talks about the growth of Mars Hill. He talks about the pressure upon him as a young pastor. He talks about sitting in a janitor closet while 1,000 people gathered on Sunday morning and just giving it to God and being scared to death. And that resonated with my heart at the time. I read that book years ago. Rob Bell had not revealed any of his cards that would come out later. I don't have Velvet Elvis anymore. I didn't know Rob Bell. I think he's done incredible damage to the faith. I think he's the heretic of our time. I'm not looking to even stomp this guy to death right now. I kind of am, but I'm not looking to I'm not mad because I don't know him.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
But I don't have any use. I wouldn't recommend it. Nothing.
Okay. Do you see a difference in...
I think I know what you're saying.
A pastor who's fallen to sin versus a pastor who's a heretic?
Yes, I do.
I agree as well.
I do. This is a good question.
They're different categories for me.
I agree. Big time. I think the Bible makes some different categories.
I think it does.
Yes.
Like the idea of wolves, Peter and Paul, like if Second John or Third John, he names guys by name. Like this guy over here.
Yeah, this guy's a heretic.
He's a mess. And look at what he's doing to the church.
Yes.
And so there is this protecting the flock against those who would change the message of Jesus.
Another Jesus, another spirit, another gospel. Yes.
And there is no other gospel, but they say there is.
Yeah,
and these guys are wolves, and they're dangerous. In 2 John, he says, listen, if these guys come to your town, don't show them hospitality. Don't let them in the church.
Don't eat. Get them out.
Don't close the door to them.
Yeah.
And so in 3 John, he's like, open the door to true Christian workers. 2 John, he's like, you close the door to false Christian workers. Those two letters back to back are wild.
Yeah.
He's literally, do not invite them into your home.
Yep.
Do not give them food.
And I wouldn't. I agree with that. There's a difference between Peter messing up and saying, I want to hang with the Jews and I don't want to eat with the Gentiles anymore. They should be acting more like Jews. And Paul going, stop acting like that. Withstands him to the face, confronts his sin, and Peter returned. Peter was wrong in that moment, but he was just wrong. He was not an apostate. I know the people, I will say this, I do believe this, now that you point this out, credit to you, but this is the right. When I think about my shelf, and I look at who's still there, they have had missteps, they have had sin, and it has done damage to people. It has done damage to the name of Christ.
We're not saying sin is not damaging.
Yeah, no, it's bad.
They have hurt the work of God in the world.
100%.
They have brought the name of Christ into ruin.
Yeah.
In Chicago, when McDonald and Hybels fell in the same year, that city laughed and mocked at Christ because of those two men.
Yes. And so I don't have any apostates on my shelf like that. I don't want that. They're wolves in sheep's clothing. That's it. You're right. That's different. And I think the Bible makes a difference.
And I would say when it comes to heretics, I don't recommend books by heretics.
Nah.
I don't recommend the work of heretics. Even if that work, again, helped me in a season, the danger of it's so great, I don't give it away to people.
Sure.
And so I don't recommend the work of heretics. I don't. Now, I might, for a study, go back to one of those things to see. They read this, but even then, I'm probably not going to use it, not going to quote it.
No.
Just from my own understanding and reading, I might go back to that world and read what it says. So now, going to the sinful section. There's different kinds of sin, too.
Yeah.
There is missteps. There is like consistent, unrepentant.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Consistent, unrepentant. I did nothing wrong. Screw you guys. I'm doing what I want.
Yeah. There's someone on this table that's like that.
Yes, there is. And I tend to not recommend those guys either.
Nah. No.
If someone is unrepentant, is not broken by the mighty hand of God, I'm not going to put them out to people. And I don't sit under their teaching anymore.
No.
And again, I'm grateful.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm grateful for what God did in their life when they were in the season, but because of their sin and their after, like David is confronted with his sin, and that, like, I deserve to die.
His response allows us to keep looking at him, to keep learning. Like, that is a godly response to sin, to conviction. Repentance is the word. Unrepentant is a big problem. No, I know what you mean.
Like one of these authors on this shelf, his books are not on my shelf anymore. His books, they're on my shelf, but they're behind all the books.
Yeah, sure.
So I have them there. I can pull to look as a resource, but they are not for the public to see. But there's a sinful struggle, which is a different kind of category. Like Brendan Manning, some people are mad that he's on this table at all. Brendan Manning is someone who has been. I went and sat at a retreat he led before he passed away, before he fell into alcoholism again. He wrote a book at the end of his life called All Is Grace, and it was like a moment of a moment of clarity. He wrote it all down, and the book ends. He says at the end of his book, he goes, "You must understand." He goes, "I'm an alcoholic, and even what I've decided to tell you, I'm trying to color your perception of me. Like, I'm still a liar, and it's hard for me to shake who I am."
Wow.
Like, it's very, it's alcoholic's heart.
Wow.
But even though he died in his alcoholism, he loved Jesus. He didn't say he was okay. I still am grateful for his work. I still read it. I still recommend it because this is a man who would never say his falling is good.
Okay.
He would call his sin, and there's a holy shame. There's a fight. He's fighting his whole life.
Yeah.
He falls, gets clean, falls, gets clean. And so his work is I still look to very, for my own personal life, and I do give it to others. People that are in addiction, I'll give their books to him. And even other people. Like our church is reading Requiem for Gospel in December. You know what I'm saying? So his books are still something I hold very dear because there is a repentant, Christ-filled, loving person who's just like many of us battling with their sin. That's different than unrepentant, consistent, willful sin.
Yeah.
Now, here's another category. Culpable blindness.
Say more.
Jonathan Edwards lived in a world.
Okay.
He lived and everyone on his street owned slaves.
This is tough, dude. It's a tough topic.
And listen, and I know neither of us are black. There was a song that came out by a rapper called Precious Puritans. And he's saying whenever he hears like these Reformed preachers quoting the Puritans, he's like, most of these guys own slaves. as African-American brother, he's like, you're quoting them as like this authority of godliness. And this dude owned my forefathers.
Right.
And I feel that. I'm like, because and then to them, these guys are superheroes of the faith. And they ignore that they own another human being. And so some say, well, is someone who is bound by the culture they lived in, does that give them a pass?
No, it doesn't.
I don't think so either,
No, it
man.
doesn't. Not okay.
We're not saying cancel, kill.
No, I'm not saying that. But it does not give them a pass, especially if they profess to be a follower of Jesus. He changes our nature from the inside out into conformity with godliness that exists independent of the culture. It's within the culture. It's affected by the culture. But that gives you, I believe, eyes to recognize sin and unrighteousness. And you don't get to say everybody... Okay, and I will admit, easy for us to say
I know,
in 2023 at this table. And I'm careful to do that. And I don't want to tear down...
Dude,
I'm not the person trying to tear every statue down.
No,
I'm
we're
not
those
trying
guys.
to do that. I don't want to do that. But
have you finished the book that just rolled down?
No, here's the thing. I got another plane ride coming up,
Okay.
and it does me well.
Have you read the chapter about the white pastor who becomes his friend?
No. Wait, no.
Perkins tells a story of a local pastor. He said the white and black ministers of the Mississippi they weren't friends. They didn't talk. And he went to visit this white pastor in this town, and they started talking. And they realized they were like, we love the same Jesus.
Yes.
Like we love Christ. And they became friends. And this preacher in 1950 Mississippi,
This is a very good chapter.
starts telling his church about, listen, as Christians, we should love our brothers, including our black brothers. And his church, they bucked him.
And then he tells Perkins, he's like, in a way, he says something about, just like I don't understand your plight. And I'm not, he said, you don't understand. It doesn't make it okay, but you don't understand where I'm living on my side of it. He says something like that.
Yeah.
And they do it well,
And this guy loses everything. He doesn't say civil rights. He doesn't say voting laws. Doesn't go against the stinking, what are those awful laws called?
Jim Crow.
They go against Jim Crow laws. He just says we should love our black brothers and sisters. That's all he says. It seeps out in some sermons because he's going through a thing.
That could still be a problem today. People say that and they still get in trouble.
And his church turns on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he loses everything. He loses his family, his standing, and that pastor kills himself.
Yeah, I read this.
We say we would stand, but man, standing against the church, the church is a hard place to stand.
Oh my word! And I don't know if I would have. I'm not going to act like I was a white pastor in Mississippi in 1962. I'm obligated to God to have done it. I'll say that. I'm not saying I have to. I don't know. I'm not going to march and do all this stuff. But that's just my thing. But I should have, in 1964 and all that, they should have preached on the sinfulness of racism and the oppression of their brothers and sisters in the Lord of a different skin. They should have done that. I mean, I know it's easy for me to say, and I don't know what it was like, but it doesn't release our obligation to do right. And you do it through the lens of the gospel. I'm not a social justice warrior, but I am through the lens of the gospel to engage. It's a very complex, it's a different subject for a different day. I understand. But so I don't want people to think I'm like abandoning I understand the gospel changes the nature of man to be what we're supposed to be in culture and society. But no, we don't get a pass. There might be an added understanding that could be afforded.
Yes.
You could afford an understanding. Like everyone's so self-righteous these days.
I can say, I know how it happened. I can understand how you lived in a world where everyone told you something, you just kind of went with the flow.
Yeah.
Okay. I've done that in my life about things.
Sure.
But just because you did doesn't make it okay.
No.
And even though I might say I like Edward's work, you can't whitewash the guy. You can't say he has a major blind spot, and it's going to affect, like if he writes that human dignity and value, I'm going to go, oh man, I don't know if you really believe what you're saying.
Right.
Because you enslaved another human being.
Right. No, I don't give out passes. I give an understanding. I give room and grace because I didn't walk it, but it's not okay.
Okay, so.
Right?
Yes.
It's not okay.
It's not okay.
It's not okay.
Okay, so. to those watching who want some answers to these questions, should you read Heretics?
No.
Probably not. Not especially. Listen, I read Heretics
For research.
Don't read Heretics for Christian living books.
Let's see what they have to say. Maybe they have a different perspective. They do. It's hell.
Some of them are great communicators. You don't want worm tongue next to your sticking bed at night, whispering sweet nothings of the devil in your ear.
No, it's bad.
So for Heretics, stay away from them. If
Mark,
they have
mark
left,
and avoid. Yeah.
If they've left the faith,
if
they've left Christ, stay away from them.
Yeah.
For those who,
or if they haven't left, they preach a different Jesus. Doesn't mean they're disqualified by sin or anything. They're out there leading churches right now and broadcasts and podcasts. Get away from these people.
Get away from them. They're dangerous.
Yeah.
Those who have been removed from ministry. Should you read their books? There are some listen, in America, I've seen preachers fall into sin, removed from their church, start a new church down the street a month later. And people with loyalty say, well, this person did so much good stuff for the Lord. If you see someone doing this, getting removed from a church, starting a new church on the street, that person's a dangerous thing.
Yeah. There's no humility.
They're ruled by fame, love of the crowd.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of those people. They're not victims. They're the victimizer.
Yeah.
They crush somebody and are saying, "Oh, I was hurt by people," when they're the ones that did the hurting.
Yeah.
So we would say, I would say, and you'd say different if you want. I would say when it comes to heretics, stay away. When it comes to those who fall into sin, be very careful of their work. There should not be a whole open armed just embrace of their work and their sermons.
Right.
There should be a discerning mind, a prayerful, discerning mind to say, what can I read of theirs? Is there unrepentant, consistent sin in this person's life? Should I let them have spiritual authority over me when they're living this way? Be very careful.
Yeah.
Reading these books, giving these books away, listening to these sermons, I would advise great caution with fallen pastors. I'm not going to put a law down. When it comes to sin, I'm going to advise great caution. Rabbi was one of the best there ever was when it comes to apologetics. I used to recommend his sermons all the time to people, and I don't anymore.
No.
That double-sided life is a horrifying thing, and I'm like, I'm not going to give this person. I don't know what was real in this guy's life.
I don't either.
And I can't just give his work to people because I don't know what I'm giving away.
Yep, I agree.
So we're gonna say to you, like, I know giving you a law would be easier, but I don't have a.
It's contextual though. Like it's like you say, did they repent? Didn't they repent? Like where are they now, and how are they allowed that to be used against the grace of God? Are they willing to let God have that story? That's a whole different.
Yes.
I agree with everything you said. I if they're unrepentant, I don't have any use for them. I think no, because I think they still have not come to humility and repentance. I don't want anything to do with them. If they are, there's some use there sometimes.
So I could imagine it's going to get a lot of blowback. There might be some people on this table that people love, that we kind of punch your guy in the eye. And again, we don't hate any of these people.
No, I don't hate anybody.
On this table, I loved every one of these guys on this table. Every one of them.
I can't say that. But.
I listen. I went to every one of these guys' church and sat at their teaching for a season of my life.
Wow.
Every one of them. And every one of their falls hurt me personally. But even with that affection, I understand the danger of their work. And I walk very carefully. And even having their books on my shelf, recommending them, or listening to their ministry through their sermons. So that's a lot, dude.
That's enough.
Should we cancel fallen pastors?
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag.
Sometimes.
Not all the time.
No.
And yeah. So With that said, I think that you're going to land the plane, yeah?
Yeah, land it.
Okay. Thank you for being with us here in the Encore. We will see you next time we come together and do this thing.